Okay, looks like we're recording. And guys, I am so excited to have on the program Suzie Stork, who is the executive director of CAFT, the Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade. Suzie, welcome to the program. You're the second guest from CAFT that I've had on in like 2 months, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you, calling me up to have me on your show, Jeremy.
Well, I thought it'd be appropriate because I wanted to get in like one last show. Oh, there's your pup, your famous pup. I wanted to get in one last show before the holidays, and I thought it would be appropriate to talk to someone from CAFT because when I think about the end of the year and like kind of like almost like doing a year in review, you guys have had so much success this year, and it's good to go out on a high note, right? Like, because the animal rights movement has had some challenges this year. We've had, like Zoe getting convicted, Zoe Rosenberg. We had some activists in the UK get convicted for rescuing beagles. So it's nice to have some wins to go along with some of these setbacks that we see. And you guys have just been cranking it out. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of wins. So the latest one is Rick Owens, which was one like basically as it got started, people were starting to say, oh, I was like barely even knowing who Rick Owens is. And then you guys were announcing the win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
So
5 days.
5 days. So first of all, just really a huge congratulations and a thank you to you and CAF for just really staying on the ball this year. It's just an incredible year that you guys have had.
For sure. I agree. It's been a really exciting time. A really exciting time for the anti-fur movement too. It's a good year for fur-bearing animals. It's a bad year for the fur industry.
Yes, yeah, I would say so. In preparation for talking to you, I looked back at the talk that you did with Trey at Animal Activism Collective just like a week ago. And I mean, speaking about what a whirlwind it is, you guys were announcing on that show the Rick Owens campaign. Here we are talking about the Rick Owens win. Um, and I remember one of the things that was mentioned in that there was this talk that executives, I guess, like fur industry execs were having some like closed door meeting that you guys got wind of or something. And it was all gloom and doom for them. Here we are talking about all these wins and celebrations. So yeah, like you guys must just be riding high right now. So I wonder how do you keep that momentum going? Because like now we're getting up to the holidays, and I know you don't have a new target announced just yet, but you're planning on it, and there's all these ongoing campaigns. So how do you keep that momentum going, especially when people like kind of go off to do their, visits with family and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we were expecting to win the Rick Owens campaign so quickly. Things have sort of just snowballed since we won Condé Nast. We've been getting, especially with the Condé Nast win and, Vogue magazine going for free, we received a lot of press. So that campaign was it was pretty long, not super long in terms of like, a pressure campaign, but it was 9 months. We got all the way up to the stage where we were, protesting outside the homes of executives. We had secondary campaigns related to Condé Nast. So, and just the win in itself, Vogue magazine going for free, was really huge. So we got a lot of press. A lot of the publications reported, that we were doing home demos. So I think it's something that, the fashion industry talks about. A lot of these people know each other. So they're probably familiar with Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade.
Hmm.
A lot of the wins that we've been getting, it's, based on our reputation, we reach out to this company and they're like, oh shit, Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade is reaching out. So let's probably pay attention a little bit. But yeah, the momentum has been great. And part of the reason why we pick the, designers and the companies that we do is because of how influential they are. They have the ability to really influence the fashion industry. People look to them, even with Rick Owens. Probably not like a huge name for, everyday people. But in the industry, he is like a darling. Like everybody loves Rick Owens. He's been a designer for 30 years. He has a massive cult following. And so, yeah, when we won that campaign, the amount of press was ridiculous. A lot of
Yeah.
people were reporting on it. So that's been great. But yeah, in terms of like momentum, sorry, I went totally off topic.
That's okay.
But yeah, in terms of momentum, it does take a long time to research these campaigns. We have to do a lot of work in the background. We have to make decisions on like, what do we have the ability to win? Are there any angles, for this company that we can go after? So it does take a little bit of time. I think, a lot of people probably don't realize that, but there's a lot of work, a lot of hours that go on in the background. We're having discussions on a daily basis. So, I mean, we've had a good run these past few
Mhm.
months. I think it's okay to take a break for the holidays.
For sure.
Let people reset. We don't want anyone to burn out, because yeah, the the companies that are left are probably going to be some of the most difficult campaigns. So it's good for people to rest, relax. But yeah, January 1st, we're announcing our next target. We're hoping to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so you just mentioned that you expect tougher battles ahead. And talking with Trey from AAC, we were talking about how we're like starting to get spoiled with these fast wins. How do you like temper expectations too? Because I mean, I feel like especially if somebody just got in the movement, like maybe they're like a brand new activist, they're expecting to get wins like right away. So how do you like kind of set them up like, no, this could take a year, this could take years. I mean, because yeah, it's just 5 days, that's just unbelievably fast.
Yeah.
And now it's like if it takes 6 days, people might be like, hey, what's going on? Like,
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a conversation that we're like constantly having. And I think it's really important to, talk about these expectations and talk about, like the future of the fur industry with activists. I think our movement has gotten a little bit spoiled with these like fast campaign wins. Like I said before, it's really not typical in pressure campaigns. I think we're just at sort of the tail end of this industry. And so, when part of the reason, like I mentioned before, CAFT goes after these like influential designers and these big companies, like we've gotten Zegna, Caring. If these companies were Saks Fifth Avenue, if these companies were still selling fur, it'd probably be a lot harder and our campaigns would be a little bit longer. But just because we're at like the tail end, so many, magazines, runways, department stores, they're all going for free. So it's really just not worth it for a lot of these companies to continue selling fur.
mhm,
But like I said, the companies and institutions that are still holding out, like LVMH, are going to be some of the toughest campaigns that will likely take a very long time.
mhm,
It's really not typical in pressure campaigns that they take 5 days.
mhm,
But again, part of that is the momentum, because we keep winning campaigns. People hear about what we do. They sort of expect if you don't answer our emails and if you don't pay attention to our protests, eventually, we're going to be outside of your homes protesting. But
yeah,
yeah, LVMH is probably, the end goal, especially, if we want to remove fur from fashion. LVMH pays the fur lobby to take a stand against fur bans like the one in the European Union. They have so much more money
wow,
than the entire animal rights movement. So if they want to keep fur going, they absolutely can. Um, so I mean, my message to our movement would be, just be prepared. Everyone, start organizing activists in your city. Get them prepped, because while we may not go after LVMH for the next campaign, we will have to eventually, if we want to see the fall of fur.
mhm,
They're the biggest conglomerate, and they sort of set the standard for the luxury sector. So start organizing, start building communities in your cities, because, when we eventually campaign against LVMH, it's going to take a large, robust movement to bring them down.
yeah,
And we really need all hands on deck. We're so close to ending the fur industry that we really need to stay focused in order to, knock out the remaining the remaining
Right.
companies and institutions. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still plenty.
There are. And I mean, I've been following you guys pretty much, I think, pretty much since you guys got started, 2020, I think it was. Um, and, we've seen a lot of protests at Berluti's and Fendi's and Laura Piana's throughout. So I know, and those are like LVMH brands, I
Mhm.
believe. Um, one of the things, and we'll get into like sort of, you talked about people like organizing in their cities. So we should kind of talk about that model of the decentralized campaign that you guys have. But first, I just want to say, like, one of the things that is impressing me, I'd probably be really easy to impress because I just don't know that fashion world at all. But like, for instance, when you announced Rick Owens and, I learned, oh, he's this big name in fashion. I had never heard of him, of course. And, well, not of course, but I'm not in that world. The amount of research that you guys seem to do is impressive. You talked about the behind the scenes work, all the hours of work that goes into these campaigns, which is really impressive. But there seems to be a bit more savviness than I've seen in a little while. Like it seems like you guys really know the fashion world. And where's that coming from? Are you guys just reading the publications? How do you guys have this knowledge? Is there someone on the team that is somehow connected to the world or what?
Um, it kind of just happened that way. So like when CAFT started in 2020, the original co-founders, they had gotten in trouble for doing direct action for liberating mink. And so they obviously that's not like a very sustainable model. So they were like, okay, so like what's the next thing that we can do? Let's just start going after these companies. And it's sort of just like a knowledge that we all sort of like built upon. Just we learn as we go. I certainly didn't expect to know so much about the fashion industry, a couple years ago. But yeah, it's just like it's part of campaigning. It's really important to understand like the industry that you're focusing on. Um, so one of the things that we've been doing, we knew like for a while now that LVMH is sort of like the top target just because like they're so influential, especially in the luxury sector.
Mm,
And we're not, I don't know that we're ready yet to go after such a big target. But what we have been doing is sort of making the environment around them like inhospitable to fur. So, going after Condé Nast, going after, department stores so that they can't sell, Louis Vuitton or Fendi products that contain fur, going after the runways like New York Fashion Week. A lot of, that's where like the trends are born.
mm,
And so it really does sort of like trickle down into like the rest of the fashion industry. And like one of the main reasons that we went after Rick Owens, not just because it's such an influential company, but its CEO is actually on the board of Paris Fashion Week. And so when we were looking at Paris Fashion Week, the board consists of like mostly LVMH executives and Rick Owens. So we're just
mm.
removing another designer on the board that sells fur. It's funny because when we were looking at New York Fashion Week, we were looking at their board, and a lot of the companies that are represented were actually like former CAFT campaigns, like Tom Brown, Alice and Olivia.
Mm.
Um, you know,
Which is probably why you guys got that win so quickly, I guess. Because New York Fashion Week was like another one of those real quick campaigns. I feel like a couple weeks maybe.
yeah, it was 20
Uh,
days. Mhm.
20 days. That's man. All right. It's so funny. Like I saw people, discussing the AAC chat, and it's like someone had mentioned like, wow, you can't even like do the live stream without there being another win, like
Yeah,
the first magazine's win, like because you guys were going to talk about something else, I believe, some other win, maybe New
yeah.
York Fashion Week. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been just wild. So, but like I said, like I have been seeing like people go after like those LVMH targets like all throughout. So the difference being that they're not like the prime focus of CAF, like driving everyone to this is going to be the target is. So maybe let's talk about the decentralization of the campaign, because one of the challenges that I see, and I've noticed it, like just going around America, is like a lot of communities maybe don't have some of these big name brands like Louis Vuitton in their city or something like that. So how do you get people to feel a part of the campaign? Because I feel like a big part of you getting the wins is like people feel ownership of it. Like we all celebrate together. We all like, so how do you do that? How do you do that when people don't have those targets maybe in their communities, or do they? Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I mean, yeah, some do. Like we definitely, and especially like with some of the campaigns like Condé Nast, there were like secondary campaigns that we were doing related to that. So like Mattel, for example, Washington, D.C. was doing home demos against Mattel executives because Roger Lynch, the CEO of Condé Nast, is on the board of Mattel. We won shortly after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like some other cities were like protesting American Girl doll. And yeah, I think it's just like a lot of the research, like we try to incorporate ways for like different cities and different communities to participate. Of course, like it doesn't happen all the time, but even with New York Fashion Week, the activists in London, were part of that win. They participated in that campaign because they started protesting the production company of New York Fashion Week, which was William Morris Endeavor and IMG. So that was really exciting for them too, to be able to participate even from like so far away. But we definitely encourage, communities to, do their own research, see different ways that they can be involved. But I will say like another way that a lot of these activists, especially like activists in like, states that don't really have a Louis Vuitton, like maybe North Carolina, for example, they come to convergences. So the AAC convergences, a lot of the time, have been centered around CAFT campaigns. So Condé Nast, Marc Jacobs. When we did Marc Jacobs, that was huge because first of all, Marc Jacobs is an LVMH brand. Probably not for long because I think they might be sold, but yeah, during the time they were LVMH, and we were just, I can't even remember how many days it was, like maybe 10 days or something for the AAC convergence. But on the last day, we ended up winning the campaign, and everybody was just so excited. I mean, the convergences are absolutely amazing because they provide, activists from all over the opportunity to participate in like these big campaigns and experience wins. Even during Fur Free Weekend, we had a bunch of people in town from AAC's like Fur Free Weekend convergence, and they participated in the New York Fashion Week campaign, so they were also a part of it.
Nice. Yeah, maybe we should mention that one's coming up, I think, in Los Angeles. Maybe
Yes.
that's, yeah. And
End of January.
and I assume that's going to be CAFT involved as well.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost always have like targets in, or a way to get involved in like the bigger cities like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, things like that.
Yeah, this partnership that you've had with AAC has been one of the beautiful things that I've seen in the movement recently, just because it's been such an effective tool. And now you've got sort of ICAW involved, and now you've got kind of like a trio of groups working together. It's like their worst nightmare, isn't it? Like, I feel like the industry must just be trembling. I mean, they should be. And when you mention like LVMH being too big at the moment, it's almost like I almost wonder if they're starting to feel more and more isolated, though, like as you pick people off, and pretty soon they're just going to be the one villain left. I spoke to someone else in CAFT who was saying like the leader of LVMH seems to relish in it. Like I don't know if they know this or whatever, but seems to relish as playing the villain of the industry. So maybe is that one of the reasons why you see this as a pretty tough target?
Yeah. Also because, fur is such a, it's like a cultural thing almost for these like European
Mm,
maisons, you know, like all the companies under LVMH. You have Berluti, Fendi. Fendi started out as a furrier. You know, they have like a slogan that is like fur is Fendi, Fendi is furs. So
mm,
they do still sell a ton of fur. You know, Dior. So yeah, I think it's like Bernard Arnault, who's the CEO of LVMH, he does like fur. It is like important to him. So, like I said, they have so much money. If they wanted to keep fur going, if they wanted to open up their own fur farm, they could do it.
mm,
So it's really important for us to, you know, focus on them and get them to go fur free.
mhm,
But yeah, like I read I read an op-ed a few years ago. It was after the Marc Jacobs win. Basically, you know, LVMH has been a bit of a bully. So it's possible that they don't let like, you know, the individual stores or individual companies within LVMH to go for free. I think Marc Jacobs maybe could have been an exception. There have been like other exceptions, like Stella McCartney, Celine went for free, Patou. But years ago, Givenchy was trying to go for free, and LVMH did not let them,
mm.
or didn't let them announce a public policy. So, yeah, this is the kind of company that we're dealing with.
Man, that's interesting. Yeah. You know, you talked about some of like the ways that people in other cities get involved. When you guys did the Rick Owens one, I went to his Instagram page and I was blown away at how you had harnessed. Like, I mean, I know it's decentralized, but like when you announce a target, everybody from around the world's like on it, and they're like they go over to that Instagram page and it's just flooded with
Yeah.
images of foxes and minks. Oh, by the way, I've got my foxy co-hosts here. I've got
Oh,
yeah.
oh my God, they're so cute.
They've been with me. They're always at my desk.
Oh, I love those.
They joined me for a protest one time, and then yeah. Um, but yeah, so I mean, there's one way that people can get involved is just like social media. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
think companies are paying attention, like someone on their company is paying attention. Like we're getting all these comments about fur, or you know, there's phone calls. There's all these different ways that pressure campaigns are being really effectively done.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so again, my hat's off to you. It's just like really an impressive operation that you guys have there at CAFT. I kind of want to go back and like get your story a little bit with CAFT as well, and your story in general of how you got involved in animal rights, and then how you came to be, you know, here at CAFT, and you're the executive director, and uh, it seems to be going great. It seems to be going really well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's your sort of backstory?
I mean, it's not super interesting, but you know, I got involved, I think it was in 2021, when I became vegan. And I actually started attending a master's program at NYU. It's the Animal Studies program. Really wonderful program. I learned a lot about it's, you know, centered around animal advocacy. So I was learning a lot. I was reading a lot of Peter Singer, a lot of these other philosophers who would talk about, you know, animals. And it sort of, you know, opened my mind a lot more than I had anticipated, because I always wanted to, you know, I always cared about animals, had an affinity towards animals. And I was like, oh, okay. Like when I entered the master's program, I was like, I want to do something to help animals. And then I think like within like the first couple months, um, I read this book called Green is the New Red by Will Potter.
Mhm.
And that's when I learned about the Shack campaign. And so I started to dig in a little bit more on the Shack campaign. And I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, like it's really incredible that, you know, this movement, like the animal rights movement, is so can have so much power, can achieve these things, can have so much reach. So I got very inspired by the Shack campaign. And then I sort of just found my way towards anti-fur activism. You know, and then I learned about CAFT. I was like, wow, there's this group that is like implementing a lot of the tactics and strategies from the Shack campaign, and they're being really successful. You know, when I became vegan, I think I just like immediately became an activist. I started going out, and I started attending fur protests in New York City, because that's where I
Mhm.
live. So there's always like plenty of that here. Very spoiled by all of that, but yeah, I just immediately got involved, and I started paying attention to CAFT, and I was like, wow, this group is really, really effective. And I'm giving up my free time on the weekends, during the week, whatever. If I'm doing that, I want to be, doing activism for a group that's getting results for animals. And so, yeah, I felt very like connected to the campaigns. I actually co-organized with a local group here in New York City, NYC Animal Defense League, which was co-founded by a really great activist here in New York City. And so a few of us got together, and then it was sort of like the new iteration of NYC Animal Defense League, because this is a group that had been around in like the 90s,
Mhm.
and was really doing a lot of fur activism back then. But yeah, so we got involved and we started running CAFT campaigns. And then we started running our own local campaigns here in New York City to just sort of just build up the community, because I think after COVID, a lot of activism just, went down. People weren't coming out as much. This is what I've heard. So,
Mhm.
we started with these sort of local campaigns, and we won. I think it was 2 local campaigns. And so that really helped us build the anti-fur community here in New York City a lot more.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so I got involved with CAFT during the Marc Jacobs campaign. And so I
Nice.
sort of just moved into the leadership team at CAFT. Um, we just all work really well together. Like it was just like
Mhm.
a really good moment in time where we all just like connected with each other. We all had like the same drive, the same interests, the same like understanding of campaigns and of what we wanted to do. And we all just work incredibly hard. We would be like working like till midnight, just constantly. And so I'm really lucky that like we all just like found each other. Like I'm talking about like the current leadership team at CAFT now. And so it
Yeah.
just went from there. I think after Marc Jacobs, we won. We also won 5 campaigns. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Wow. Well, it's funny you said that it's not interesting, your story, because I find it really interesting. First of all, like I'm really encouraged to hear like that you going vegan fairly recently, just 4 years ago, and
Yeah.
also getting into it through academia and books, which is
Mhm.
something that a lot of people like um my buddy Wayne, Wayne Shung, he just
Yeah.
posted something on social media that was like something about how people don't read anymore. It was like it used to be that readers outnumbered non-readers 2 to 1. Now it's
Wow.
3 to 1 the other way. So
Mhm.
people aren't reading anymore. So that's really interesting that you got into it from books and
Yeah.
academia, because like when I went to college, there was, as far as I know, there was just like no mention of animals or anything. So I'm glad you found yourself at this particular place. That what was it? What school was it in New York that had this?
NYU.
NYU. So they
Yeah.
have this like incredible program or something. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's the animal studies program. It's great. I
Yeah,
think it's just a master's and PhD program. But it's definitely like geared towards, anybody that wants to get involved in animal advocacy,
right, right.
especially like, anti-factory farming,
Mhm.
campaigns and stuff like that.
Was it like Peter Singer? Like what was it? Those books? Did you turn vegan from those books?
Yeah, we read a lot of Peter Singer, Tom
Mhm.
Reagan, just
Nice,
like a ton
nice.
of other philosophers. A lot of my professors, were vegan too. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was great.
That's amazing.
Mm.
So you went vegan, like, and then so you said pretty instantly you became an activist too.
Mhm.
Do you remember like your first actions? Like what did you take part in when you got started?
Actually, one of like the first protests I went to, I think it might have been, I think it was like an anti-fur protest in New York
Nice. Yeah.
City, organized by Rachel,
Mm,
who's like a big name here in New York.
mhm.
I think I went to maybe One Cube, but I don't really like talking to people, so it wasn't for me.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You'd rather be on the megaphone, huh? Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, and then I met like during my time too at NYU, I met our wonderful campaigns coordinator for CAFT. Neither of us were really involved too much in CAFT at the time. I mean, she was doing, she was like, she's been involved in activism for a long time.
Mhm.
But yeah, we started that local group as well. So yeah, it was a really good time. I feel like I've always been drawn to social justice issues. Um, so I was a vegetarian for a very long time. I was doing it for a lot of like health reasons, environmental reasons. That was a big part of it.
Mhm.
So I was actually, before I got a master's in animal studies, I was um, getting ready to apply to a physician assistant program because I wanted to work. In healthcare, and I was doing a lot of research in, public health. And so I started learning about all these like health disparities, and just like the way that like certain foods are like promoted to certain kinds of people and like communities and like food deserts and all of that. So like I watched Cowspiracy. That was like a really important film for me as well.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, I just started to see how like the government treats people.
Mhm.
And that was like a real eye-opening for me. And then I read, Green is the New Red, and I saw how, government repression came down on a very effective movement. And
Yeah.
um, yeah.
It's funny, like your timeline is so much faster than mine, but it kind of follows the same trajectory of like kind of learning about what happens to animals, and then from there, then learning about the campaigns against what we do to animals and getting kind of fascinated with that aspect of it. You may
Yeah.
have already answered this when you talked about how you want to make, spend your time with groups that are getting results, and you got fascinated with the Shat campaign and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering why you gravitated, and like I said, maybe you just already answered this, but why you gravitated towards the anti-fur movement, and why fur in particular. Did you see this as just like something that you could accomplish, like this is like an industry that's on the brink? Because that's how I view it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think like when I first became, vegan, you feel a lot of like you just feel really overwhelmed because there's just so much animal suffering everywhere. It's all around you, and like your eyes are open for like the first time, and like you're really like coming to terms with like how animals are treated in our society. And so when I got involved in anti-fur campaigning, we were getting results. Like we're getting companies to drop fur. And so like to me, I was like, oh, I'm like making a difference. I'm like creating tangible change for animals. I'm really like affecting this industry. And so yeah, it gave me like a sense of purpose. It made me feel like it gave me ownership. So I think that was like a big part of it.
Mhm.
That I realized like, oh, like I can do something, like our movement has power, like let's do this. And the fur industry, of course, like around 70% of Americans disagree with fur. It's like the low hanging fruit of all animal exploitation industries right now. And I saw that like people were actually like making a difference, winning campaigns, and I was like, okay, well, I want to be a part of that. I want to help end this industry, because something that we say at CAFT is, if we can't beat like the this industry, which is like the lowest hanging fruit of all animal exploitation industries, if we can't beat this industry that is failing already, how are we going to beat animal agriculture? Like, how are we going to beat like all these other bigger industries that are so ingrained in in society? So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's like also like part of like the main motivator as well. It's like this industry is already doing poorly. Let's end it. Let's be like this generation of activists, like this movement right now, like we can end this industry. And I think a lot of the campaigns, there's like skills that you learn along the way. And this is like a blueprint for how to end bigger, more funded industries later on in the future.
For
And
sure.
our campaigns help build leadership, organizers, people who will keep this movement going in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the Shat campaign, of course, that was against vivisection, and so it's interesting, to like kind of like apply that blueprint to this industry, to that
Mm,
industry, and so on.
mhm.
And I'm just really inspired. One of the things that I love about CAFT and about grassroots animal movement in general is just like it's really not that huge. It's not that large a number of people, but it's just people who refuse to like give in.
Yeah.
Like you said, like yeah, when you first go vegan, it seems overwhelming, but it's just a small like ragtag group of people can force companies to their knees.
It
I
really
mean,
is, yeah.
it's incredible. And that's not to say like, I mean, it's filled with really impressive people. But it's just a small group of like you mentioned on the AAC thing, a bunch of friends, like
Yeah,
just like kind of like that are in it to win it, basically.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll even go back to another thing I heard from Chris Liptrot on another AAC chat, who mentioned that one of the things that they liked about the new campaign is that just like starting a campaign believing they're going to win it, and the difference that that makes. Because yeah, I feel like when I started activism, we would do a lot of activism where we just it just felt like doing activism to do activism, which was beneficial, but we didn't think like we're going to close this place or that place. And it wasn't
Mhm,
until later and kind of following the model of CAFT and AAC and some of these
mhm.
other groups where we started to get those like tangible wins. um Oh, and mentioning Chris and AAC, I kind of want to just give another shout out to CAFT about this new collaborative spirit that I'm seeing in the movement. That is,
Yeah.
because these are three groups with differing strategies, different philosophies, but
Mhm.
not that different. And what I love is that it's you guys are fine. You found the common ground, which is like you all love to get out there and do this and get boots on the ground and work. And it doesn't matter if AAC may be targeting foie gras and you guys may be targeting fur and whatever. You guys join each other, and that's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
like too. You guys join, and you try to keep that like division from overwhelming people, because the division has been bad in our movement, like
Oh, yeah.
6 years ago or so, and even more recent too.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my perspective. Maybe I'm like I dip in and dip out sometimes when I get annoyed. But I just have seen like a different in the last year or so, just a sort of a different mentality take hold. And I think you're a bit a part of that. Uh, maybe you specifically, but definitely CAFT.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
speak to that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love this coalition. It's just like 3 super strong groups. Yeah, we have different, like, I wouldn't say necessarily, like, 2 different, like, theories of change, but, like, it's definitely, like, different, different campaigns that we work on. So, like, CAFT is for AAC is, like, mobilizing and foie gras, and ICAW is cage-free campaigns. But, as you can see, like, when we all work together, our movement is stronger, and at the end of the day, like, we're all trying to help animals.
Right.
Like, there's no reason to, argue with each other and fight with each other. Like, the animals don't care about that. They care about
Mhm.
results. Like, they care about getting out of cages. They care about not being, like, bred, like, future generations being bred just to suffer in misery. So I think, like, this coalition, that's, like, where our strength really lies, is the fact that, like, we can, just all work together and build power.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
like you said, like, this movement is not big. This is a very small movement. It's a fringe movement of, other social justice movements. But when we work together, when we stay focused, we can create real change for animals and we have power. I mean, we're
Real power.
getting billion-dollar companies to do what we're asking. So I think, yeah, I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, very powerful. I mean, to the point that it's just like I don't want to give people expectations or anything, but when y'all talk about how hard LVMH is going to be, sometimes in my head I'm like, y'all are gonna knock that out so quick. I don't want to jinx y'all, but I'm just like, just how quickly you guys are getting the wins. And I think one of the things about getting the wins too is just that people want to be a part of the wins. Like you get this reputation of winning and it draws people in. Even just doing this podcast, I'm like, what podcast should I do at the end of the year? What should we celebrate? Well, it's all these wins that we're getting. I feel like 2-3 years ago we were like, it was a slower year. Maybe I have that wrong. I'm not remembering, but it has just been that whirlwind of wins. You know, when you look back at this year, since I'm sort of seeing it more from the outside, and just what are the moments for you that have been like, like that was the moment that you really remember, you know, whether it's like campaigning or like getting a win, or yeah, what are some things that stick out when you do your year in review kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many moments. You know, I'm really grateful to be part of this movement and, you know, part of CAFT, because I'm just working with so closely with people that really inspire me. You know, people that have been in the movement longer than me, people that have more experience than me. But you know, I also just want to like mention that, you know, we're everyday people. Like we're not like special like geniuses, but like we are like super focused and we care about what we're doing and we're willing to put in the time um and organize and, you know, work together. So that's why we've been like successful. That's why our movement has been successful. So I really want people to like take that to heart, and, you know, anybody can do this. Everybody should be doing this and getting involved. But yeah, like one of the most, I would say like one of the most like memorable moments was, you know, when we were working on the Condé Nast campaign, we got two cease and desist letters, and, you know, like being basically we were like being threatened that we were going to be sued. And that's a scary moment, especially because we just became like you know, a nonprofit. So we're like, oh shit, like this is like a big company. So the company or the law firm that Condé Nast hired was the same law firm that defended the NRA. So, you know, it's like a big deal. And we're like, wow, they're like trying to shut us up. That means like we're bothering them. And like, so we all just like put our heads together. We're like, you know what? We're not going to cave to this. We're not going to cave to this corporate
Nice.
scare tactic. If they want to sue us, they could sue us. Like, we don't have any money anyway. So like, good luck. But yeah. And then, so after that happened, we saw a bunch of other cities get involved. Like I said, like DC, London, Chicago, just the campaign started spreading. I think Milan got involved too. They did some actions, Paris. So I think like when the company saw that, you know, like, okay, this is not just like a concentrated like little group of people. This is like an entire movement. Are they really going to sue all of us? Yeah, I think it just shows like the power that like our movement has. And, you know, we won that campaign like shortly after that second cease and desist letter. And shortly after, like a bunch of other different cities, you know, started getting involved. It was just growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
And I
I
think that was like a very also like important moment for me, just like reflecting. I was like, wow, like we are close to ending the fur industry. We just got the most influential fashion publication to stop promoting fur. Like
Yeah.
that sends a message. It sends a message to like other fashion designers, to other companies, to the fur industry. Most importantly, they were pissed. So that made me happy.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that is such that had to be such a pivotal moment, that when you're getting these threats, these legal threats,
Mm,
because I've seen that myself. Like I've seen I've been on the receiving end of some of those threats and had like a group of people feel terrorized by that. Um,
yeah.
and that's a really difficult moment, and it's a very consequential decision to make, whether to go this way or that way. And you guys, I'm so grateful that you guys chose fuck it, we'll
Yeah.
fight you. We will fight you. Like, and because that could have ended things. I mean, that could have shut things down. And and now I see it won't. Like they probably, that must be very disempowering to the fur industry to realize that one of their last remaining weapons
Mhm.
is inconsequential in effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that takes a lot of courage and gumption, and so uh, that, I mean, that's a really powerful moment. So, and you were executive director at the time. You know, being so new in the movement, that's a really impressive rise to be executive director of this really effective group too. That must feel great too, just to have that confidence from your peers. Like you said, these are your friends. And they must see that there is something about Suzie that really gets shit done, you know? And I don't mean to embarrass you and make you talk about yourself. I know you don't believe this is all about you and everything,
No.
but I'm just I'm just wondering, like, those like what sort of like feedback were you getting from friends? They were like, well, Suzie, like, she's really good at this, and would be really great for CAFT. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just more organized than the rest of them.
Yeah, I think
Maybe,
that could be it. You know, speaking of, like, I see people have like great success who are like really organized. Like Elmira Tanner at DXC is very impressive. When I've spent time with Elmira, like, just her ability to be on the ball is it blows me out of the water. So yeah, maybe that is part of it too. Just and that, I think, you know, like I've called our movement kind of ragtag, and I think that's accurate. And I think like uh it's hard to find someone with that organizational skill set and
Mhm.
ability to stay focused, because we're always kind of pinging back and forth, like you said, like the overwhelming feeling of everything. Maybe we want to, now we're focused on an orca, now we're focused on, you know, whatever this is, you know, like it's
Mhm.
hard because we're seeing suffering in so many different places.
Yeah.
um I
Yeah,
guess that,
I mean,
go
I
ahead.
think, like, we all just have, like, our team, like, we all just have, like, very sort of, like, very similar mindset. We all believe in, like, the same theory of change. Like, we're all hard workers, like, we really are. It was just like the way it progressed. I ended up becoming the executive director.
Hmm, hmm.
I had the opportunity to do it. And yeah, I took it. I was working at another animal rights organization before I moved full time to CAFT. I was working at Animal Equality, which is like another really great organization. So, I learned a lot there as well. I was a campaigner.
Hmm.
And I think, like, we're all like these campaigners at heart. And it's just something that we love doing.
Hmm. Let's talk about resources a little bit, because you know, I feel like you guys probably, just from my vantage point, it seems like you guys kind of operate on a shoestring budget, and you guys have still been getting these wins. I'm wondering, like, what do you think CAFT would be able to do if they were just like a well-funded organization that got, you know, tons of donations? Like, how would that change CAFT? Is one of the things, like, you know, I'm gonna make sure to put links, so people should definitely donate to CAFT. One of the
Yes.
things I'm always thinking is like, the formula's working. Like, what, you know, I don't want to change too much, but you guys could definitely use, you know, resources to be able to organize and do all that sort of stuff. So what
Absolutely.
would you guys like to be doing that you can't do because you don't have the funds to do it?
I mean, there's quite a bit. I think just it really makes a difference when there's people working on CAFT full time. So like previously, like when we were all working on like the Mark Jacobs campaign, there was like three people that were doing it full time. The rest of us, we had jobs, and we would do it just like part time. But we won Mark Jacobs and we got like 5 wins. And then we all just got like a little bit burnt out.
Hmm.
And then we
Understandable.
got the opportunity to work on CAFT full time again. And as you can see, it's made a big difference and we're winning campaigns. So I think
Yeah.
it's just having people to do this like full time really makes the difference. You know, of course, we always need social media help. We need help editing videos and stuff and just putting out more content. You know,
Mhm.
we always like focus, you know, the time that we do have is focused on campaigns. And, you know, running the organization, like what can we do, you know, to get these campaigns going.
Mhm.
So some other things, you know, fall to the side, like, you know, releasing content, which I think is really important because, again, you know, passing on this information, like skill sharing with people and with the movement, like, you know, take this model and after we end the fur industry, let's use it for something else. You know, building leadership, I think that's really important. And you know, when people work on our campaigns, I think that's something that they get out of it.
Mhm.
You know, like, you know, our campaigns are decentralized. So I don't know if I actually explained it very well before, but basically what that means is that like anybody anywhere can participate in these campaigns. Like what CAFT does is like we do the research, we like pick targets, and then we disseminate information. You know, like so here's Rick Owens. This is like an important target because of X, Y, and Z. How can you get involved? Here are his stores. You know, do research and find other ways that you can get involved.
Mhm. And another thing, you mentioned the convergences and how they've led to direct wins. Like sometimes, like right at the end of a convergence, you guys get a massive win, like Mark Jacobs.
Yeah.
And those cost money, obviously. Like you got to
Yeah.
house people, you got to have travel expenses, people got to eat for
Yeah.
some reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, so yeah, there's a lot that goes into this that maybe people don't think about. Yeah. So I hope people get behind CAFT. You know, I just always think about like, you know, I'm not someone who has a lot of disposable income to spend on the movement, but I think there are some people out there. And when I think about like, what are the orgs that if I had a lot of money, I would throw some money at because I want to get results. CAFT would be one of them. AAC would be one of them.
Yeah.
And you know, so I'm just sort of doing that as a plug just to implore people. And Suzie didn't ask me to do this, by the way, but I just think it would be an effective use of your resources,
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, all of that goes towards like mobilizing. It goes towards, you know, it goes towards the grassroots movement. Like we always also like try to provide like supplies to anybody who needs it. Like if you need posters, if you need megaphones, like
Right.
just reach out to us.
Right.
You know, whatever you
And
need.
that's what
We
people
we
need.
have it, we'll share it with you.
Right, right. And you know, we're at the end of the year, so maybe people are thinking about like year-end gifts. That's that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
beyond resources though, we kind of talked about how some people can get involved, but what let's say beyond, you know, like donations and things like that, like people, what I know what you really want are people to participate, you know.
Yes,
I
yeah.
love that there was this great like anonymous post about the ALF back in the day, written by, you know, who knows, but it said stop supporting the ALF was a clickbaity title, but it was like stop supporting the ALF, be the ALF. You
Yeah.
know, like I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I
So
think I've seen that, yeah.
yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, so how can people get involved and start to be CAFT?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, anybody that picks up a sign, does anything for CAFT is part of the coalition. I would definitely say so we have a mailing list that we just started. I highly encourage people to sign up to it because you know, we have a newsletter. It's just like a way to be connected to the anti-fur movement. Like I send out like updates constantly, like whenever we launch a new target, whenever we have like an important call to action, if we have like protests coming in a city near you. Um, you know, sign up to the newsletter. You can also reach out to us. Our email is action@caftusa.org. You know, if you just want to find a way to get involved or if you want to meet with us, um, we're always open to that. We definitely like encourage cities. Like if you don't have like an LVMH target in your city, or like you don't have you know, whatever our current campaign is, if you don't have that in your city or you don't have any secondaries, um, start a local fur campaign. We would love to help you. We would love to be able to be like a resource, you know, share information, share skills, help you choose like a good target. We've seen lots of cities, you know, do this locally and have good success. And it's a way to also like grow your community. You know, like people want to be involved in like winning campaigns. You start winning campaigns on a local level. It's great. People will hear about it. You know, Chicago has been doing really well with that. Like they ran a campaign against Chicago Fashion Week. They got it to go for free. They've also had like certain like little like smaller boutiques and stuff. They've gotten to go for free, and they have such a strong community. So like I always like point to them as an example. Boston is also really great. We collaborated with Boston to get Boston Fashion Week to go for free. So that's like another good boost of morale and, you know, good for community building in Boston. And yeah, I think like in Florida too, there's been like around Orlando, some of those communities have organized campaigns against sex shops that sell fur items. So like there's definitely like things that you can do. And if you don't know where to start, reach out to us. Like we'll meet with you. You know, we'll do whatever we can to help.
Yeah.
And another way I would say is, you know, everybody has different skill sets. Like if you're good at graphic design, if you're good at video editing, if you're good at doing research, like there's a lot of things that you could be doing. Like we need help with all of that.
Right.
We're a very small team. Some of us are not gifted in, you know, these areas. If you're gifted at like making videos, like come make videos for us, or make videos about like our campaigns, about the anti-fur movement. If you're good at like collecting signatures, like get people to sign up to our mailing list. And if you're good at research, and you want to get involved, like please reach out. There's always something that, you know, there's not enough hours in the day for us sometimes, with all like the background tasks. And I know like some of those things are not exciting. You know, I feel like people think of like a pressure campaign as like, oh wow, like we're hitting the streets, we're getting out there, we're gonna, you know, it's like very action film, but you know, a lot of the day-to-day stuff is actually like pretty boring. It's like data entry, you know, finding emails, things like that. So yeah, I feel like just use like what you're good at, find a way to get plugged in and use that to help like the anti-fur movement and help
Yeah.
us in the fur industry.
And you know, some people, I don't know how many of my viewers this would apply to, but some people who may find like the intensity of a fur campaign too much may be more attracted to some of those things that we might say, like to me or you, might be a little more of the boring side of things, putting
Yeah.
data in. So people can use their skills. However, I also just want to say, like, kind of before we wrap up, like I actually didn't really mention the animals that much in this podcast, which is something that happens sometimes. You get swept up in campaigns, but as we're like going into the holidays, I just want people to remember like that these animals are caged right now. Like
Yeah.
there's millions of animals in cages waiting to get killed. You know, I don't know how, maybe it's after the first season or whatever, but you know
It
what I
is,
mean? Yeah.
sadly.
So
Yeah.
but this is actually saving animals. And another thing I want to say is like you've mentioned the snowball effect, and you know, Trey himself mentioned that this big omni win that they got with you know, the foie gras
Yeah,
may have been a direct result of the Condé Nast win, or vice versa. These wins feed on each other.
for
So like
sure.
say if like people are not, maybe some people are like real passionate about farm animals, as we all are. Even getting these wins in your community, like getting a fur win, can lead to a foie gras win, can lead to a win on some other area, because this reputation gets built up around your town. Like,
Absolutely.
holy crap, these guys get shit done. I don't want to be next in line. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, just yeah, like talking about like the animals, you know, I think about that all the time, and it's like something that like also like keeps me going. Like I try not to look at, you know, footage of like animals in cages or like it just like, you know, it really affects me. So like I know it happens. Like I don't need to look at it all the time. But it's good to like always like keep that in mind. Like there's like real individuals, you know, that we're fighting for who are stuck in these cages, day after day, wild animals like foxes, minks, who are like
Beautiful
just,
animals.
yeah, beautiful
I don't,
animals. Uh,
I don't want to make light of it, but you know, yeah.
yeah, no, but like they're stuck in these cages and for what? It's just so senseless to me. It's so senseless. Like for some rich idiot to wear their skin for a piece of clothing that nobody needs. Like nobody needs that. And it's just it's so far from natural. You know, even trapping is horrific. You know, animals get their legs caught or their limbs caught in these like disgusting traps, and some of them like chew off their own limbs. Like we don't need to do that. Let's evolve. Um, so yeah, it's really important to keep that in the back of your mind. Like we're fighting for these animals. You know, sometimes we'll play um, like the sounds of animals getting, you know, like electrocuted or skinned during a protest, and it's so powerful. And like people on the street will stop and they're like, because it sounds like a dog. It sounds like a dog that's crying, and it's like these animals are not so different from like the cats and dogs that we have at home.
Right.
Um, but they're just not considered at all. So,
Right. It's very sad and but very inspiring. And I'm glad that we can end the year on such a high with the wins that CAFT is getting, and knowing that this is actually tangibly getting animals out of this industry and back
also
where they belong.
forgot to mention, but this is super a huge important win of this entire movement. Poland just voted to ban fur farming,
Right.
which is huge. They're like the biggest producer of fur in Europe and the second in the world. So, I mean, the writing is on the wall. The fur industry is going to end. Let's do it sooner rather than later.
Yes, exactly. So, Susie, thank you so much. You inspire me every day, and you guys at CAFT have just been such wonderful. Like you're so good for the movement. I'm really grateful to CAFT and all the work that you do. So, let's cheers to an incredible 2025, and let's bring 2026, make that the year the fur industry drops to their knees. I mean, they're on their
Yeah.
knees. Let's kick them in the face and get them
Yeah.
out.
Go in the
Yeah,
bath.
yeah. A good friend of mine says, you know, a lot like they're on the brink. It's time to finish them off. I agree. I think the fur industry is on its way out, but
Yeah.
that's not written.
No.
You know, it's going to require us to do it.
The
So
worst thing to do right now is lose focus. You know, the animals that are still stuck in that system deserve justice, and you know, we can't lose focus. We have to end it for them.
exactly. All right. Well, is there anything that we didn't cover, Susie, you think we should talk about before I let you go?
No, I think we covered it all.
All
I
right. Well,
appreciate you
wonderful.
having me on.
All right, guys, Susie, and please follow those links down below. Support CAFT, and thank you, and happy holidays to everyone. This will be the last episode of the year, I think, maybe, unless there's one before New Year's. Anyway, happy 2025, happy 2026, and let's get those animals out of the cages. All right, take care.